Opperman. Introducing Mrs. Ramlas T.A. Bass. Tam Bowie. Tuk Chow. Hong Yu. Kazi Faza.
Congratulations.
Sifa Hassan. Sahara Karim. Tan Lee. Iman Haider. Sukhman Kaur.
The principal of James Fowler High School. What an important and formal event this is. While this ceremony is first and foremost for you, the graduating class, it is also for the people who care about you and have been supportive of your educational endeavors, your parents, families, friends, teachers, and others who work at our school every day. Graduation is one of the few rites of passage remaining in our society. It is a time when we pause to look back before we look forward. A rite of passage would not be complete without the inclusion and participation of the community's leaders. It is with this in mind that those I'm about to introduce have been invited to participate in these closing exercises. We are honored they are able to have.
Let's give them a round of applause. begging you to be in class and pay attention. Your teachers have done an amazing job to help each one of you be able to get here today. Let's give them a really big round of applause. Let's take a moment and thank families and guests here today. Today is a bittersweet moment, but I want to say thank you for sticking around, supporting, and being a voice of grounding and reason in these graduates' lives. Let's thank our families and guests here today with a massive round of applause. These are just a few of the people who have acted as driving forces to get you as an individual graduate here to this stage today. There are others who may not be here who have inspired you.
For the processional.
It's okay.
To address you one last time as your principal. What can I say to you today that hasn't been said in so many ways by so many people in your lives? Rather than repeat such oft-heard advice, I would like to tell you a personal story about my life. I hope, in sharing my story, you will leave today in believing that every experience is an opportunity to make your lives better. Many of you know I was born in Durban, South Africa. This is where my story begins. Durban is known as Africa's seaside playground in the sun, and truly one of the most beautiful cities in the world. A modern, fast-paced city of 3.5 million people on the warm Indian Ocean. with radiant golden sands and lush subtropical greenery. Surrounded by world-famous vineyards and some of the largest and most prosperous diamond mines in the world, this city also has a dark history that taints the idyllic picture I have just described for you. At the time of my birth, and for 46 years, South Africa was governed by a legalized system of racial segregation and white nationalism called apartheid. Under apartheid, people were segregated by the color of their skin and labeled as black, white, colored, or as in my case, and my family, Indian. Under apartheid, racism was made law. Apartheid law prohibited whites and non-whites from marrying, and intimacy or friendships between whites and non-whites were criminal offenses. As a child, I had no friends who were not also Indian. To defy these laws resulted in harsh punishment, such as imprisonment or even death. The country was partitioned into different racially allocated areas, and non-whites were not allowed to use the same public amenities such as restaurants, swimming pools, elevators, buses, and restrooms as whites. There were also separate schools and universities for each racial group. As a young boy, I remember going to the park with my family and my brother sitting on a white bench. A policeman came up to him and told my father and him to get off the bench, or he will be in big trouble with the police. And the white benches were only reserved for the white people. The white benches were positioned under shady trees, while the green benches, where we were permitted to sit, was in the hot sun. I remember going to the ocean and swimming at the non-white beaches. The non-white beaches were rocky, with rugged shorelines, while the white beaches were powdered with sand. I remember riding the bus downtown with my mother to go shopping. The non-white buses were overcrowded, often with standing room only, and dirtier and older than the white buses. While shopping, we were not allowed to use the washrooms, as they were only reserved for the whites. Being born in this environment, I might not have noticed these differences until I was older, but my father made sure I was aware of the inequities. One of my earliest memories is of my father bathing my brother and me in a bucket, as we had no bathtub. Every single night, as he gave us a bath, he would say, "This is not your country, and I'm going to take you to a free country where you'll be treated fairly." This was our bedtime story, and we heard it every night from the time I was born until I finally left South Africa. My father kept his bedtime promise to take us to a free country. Like many of you, my parents immigrated to Canada when I was a child. We left behind our aunties and uncles and cousins and grandparents, many of whom we never saw again. I remember my parents crying because they knew they'd never see their own parents again. The day we were leaving, my grandfather gave me his ring to wear. I was so concerned that the ring was too big that I did not notice my parents' hearts and how they were aching. To my brother and me, who were flying for the first time, our departure was a great adventure. We had no idea we wouldn't see our large extended family for 32 years, and we were about to become a family of 4. My father came to Canada because he wanted my brother and me to have opportunities we couldn't experience in South Africa. My father, being an English teacher, believed that an opportunity existed for us in a free country where we could begin our new lives. He had dreams for us that exceeded the realities of our birthplace. He did not believe in bowing to the superiority of others, and he refused to fit into the box designed for Indians, which is probably why my brother was sitting on the white bench in the first place. In the face of racial oppression, my father's deepest fear was that we would grow up in South Africa and believe ourselves inferior, as the law stated we were. This is what most motivated him to leave. He dreamt of raising us in a safe environment where freedom and equality prevailed. I probably first realized how true this was when flying with my family from South Africa to Canada. When we boarded the South African Airways plane in Durban to begin our long journey to Canada, we were required to sit with other non-whites at the back of the plane, and we were only served our meals after the white passengers were first served and had finished eating. I remember being hungry, smelling the food, and trying to be patient until it was our turn to eat and drink. When boarding our connecting flight in London, my brother threw up at the entrance of the plane. The surprising part to me was not that my brother got sick, but the white flight attendants rushed to assist him. During the long transatlantic flight, I was even more surprised when a white passenger noticed my discomfort and moved seats so that both my brother and me could lie down and sleep. I remember thinking, as I drifted off to sleep, how much our lives had already changed, because my father kept his promise and was bringing us to freedom. At that time, I could not have imagined I would one day marry a white Canadian girl, and we would have a little boy who was so fair he could sit on the white benches of apartheid South Africa. Our arrival in Canada was not a happy ending, but rather the beginning of an extremely difficult period in our lives. Arriving in Toronto, we stayed at a hotel while my father applied for teaching jobs. At the time, there were not many teaching jobs available in large cities in Canada. My father discovered that the Canadian government